How did you feel when you first found out that you were going to be directing Inhumans?
I was so thrilled. When they chose me, I was like really blown away because doing a TV show for Marvel, setting the tone, coming up with the first episodes and building this world was really a honor. And then also then shooting it on IMAX, what is for me like a kid in a toy store. I love IMAX. If I can see a movie in IMAX, I would watch the IMAX version. So doing these together, that was like a dream come true.
Why do you think Marvel chose the Inhumans? Because there's so many different characters in that
Yes.
universe.
Um, I think Marvel Television was really looking for something that has multiple characters, what has a lot of depth. And the characters of Inhumans are very depthful characters. Their superpowers are really a burden for them. So we could create really interesting storylines and really interesting interaction between the characters. What gives you such a depth kind of TV series? Was really cool. If you look at other series, other superhero series would have one superhero. You could not go in depth in the interaction between them, but we could with Inhumans. So I think that was the reason they picked it.
And so many of the characters have superpowers. I love the fact that the king can't speak and has to use sign language. I think that's really original and a great message to send out. But as a director, how did that affect how you directed the actors? Because if they all had superpowers, I imagine it was different to how you directed actors in previous films.
Yeah, no, you go around to a different way. So for me, with Anson Mount, he took his character very seriously. What I did as a director, we hired a sign language specialist. I put him in the room together with Anson, and then basically Anson wrote his own sign language. He created his own sign language, and and then as a director, you try to help the actor finding the tone and finding the moments of these dramatic moments, but then also giving him moments to play. For example, in the episode of the scene that we showed you in the dining room scene, at the end of the scene, the Gorgon character is really angry, right? And he then stamps with his fist on the table. What is really great as a director is that you give then the direction to Anson to kind of expecting he's going to be angry, and then he's expecting him to be forceful, and he does, and he doesn't do it with any words to him, but he does it with this big slam on the table. And then, but the cool thing is the camera stays the whole time on the king, so you see his kind of reaction and his development for that beat in that moment. So as the director, you're looking for these kind of moments to give him room to play, to act, to show the depth of his character without saying a word.
And so, obviously, it's the first time IMAX cameras have ever been used for a TV series. How did you feel when you first found out you'd be using IMAX cameras? Were you worried about it, or were you really looking forward to it?
No, I was really looking forward to using the IMAX camera because I'm such a IMAX fan and some IMAX geek. So it's kind of a kid in a toy store, and also it gave me a reason for me to build bigger sets and to find the best locations, and it really made my work such a more interesting kind of thing. But also, I think where TV is going, the TV is such a high quality lately. A lot of TV series are better than many movies in the theaters. So I think it would be a really good thing to bring TV series into a theater experience, because at home you're still distracted by the family and the dog of the neighbor, and you're watching in a subway your TV on an iPad or an iPhone. You will watch the stories, but you will not get the emotional involvement. But now with IMAX and doing Inhumans in an IMAX theater, I can now have the opportunity to have an audience member feel it and experience the emotion of these characters and of this moment, because you're surrounded by darkness, surrounded by sound, and you're looking at a real big image with all the details. So for me, that was just such a cool next step, and I hope many will follow.
I can imagine Game of Thrones doing well in that way.
Yes.
I read that you were a Game of Thrones fan online. Did that affect the casting of Maximus? Were you involved with the casting at all?
Yes, no, I was involved with the casting, But picking Ewan had nothing really to do with Game of Thrones. You know, I know him as a really good actor. He was on the list for us to see if he wants to do it, and I was really glad that he would do it. And he also liked it because, yes, he's a villain in the Game of Thrones, and he's kind of a villain in Inhumans, but it's a villain on the right side of truth. You know, he's really on the right side. You will root for his reason of doing what he's doing because he wants to stop the inequality in the human race. He wants to stop the racism in the humans world. So he's kind of on the good side. And the casting process was really a collaboration between ABC, Marvel, myself, the showrunner, Jeff Loeb, who runs Marvel TV. We watched tape, we watched actors, we did interviews with them. And then, the final decision is to Marvel. But I was definitely my choices that we have for the actors.
So there is such a thirst and a demand for comic book TV series and films and characters with superpowers. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Because I'm sure when you went to Comic-Con, you experienced that. There's just such a
there
buzz
was
for
an
these
extreme
characters.
version of that, yeah. There's a big fan base, worldwide for these kind of characters. I don't know, maybe it's the phase that the world is in now, The world is a really turmoil, right? Politics is really bad everywhere in the world. If you look at the American politics or even the Brexit, it's kind of an extreme version. So maybe people are looking at something that has more power in beings to be believable, to go into that world instead of believing or being interested in realistic persons. I don't know. It would be a really nice psychological study to find out.
Yeah, it would be. So you filmed in Hawaii, which just sounds far too idyllic for a workplace. Were there any challenges to filming in Hawaii at all?
No. It was really easy and a blast. I kind of pushed the limit a little bit because when we were shooting in Honolulu, I wanted to shoot at the most difficult corner in the center of Honolulu. And they said, yeah, you can do it if you do it on Sunday morning. So we did that. And then the jungles and the landscapes are spectacular in Hawaii. So it was really a blast shooting there and a good cruise and beautiful locations.
So it's obviously the first time a TV series has been shown in the IMAX. Do you think this trend is going to take off in future?
I hope it will take off. I think that a lot of television is more interesting than a lot of movies out there. And so for me, watching, I know, for example, now that's the Game of Thrones, the last season, they're going to have like 1.5 hour episodes. So why not showing a 20-hour Game of Thrones in a theater? I think I would watch it. I want to see it. Because I think a lot of movies now in the theaters are not as good as a lot of TV shows. And for me, watching TV, if you watch it on a small device or at home, it's still a very simple way of following a story, but you get no emotional involvement. So doing this on a big screen and sitting in the dark and being surrounded with the sound, I think it's an experience that a lot of people will enjoy. So I think there's a big market of bringing full TV shows back to the theaters and especially in IMAX theaters.